Hey guys! Tonight, we're settling into something a little closer to home. Not a king, not a queen, not even a duke with an unfortunate chin. Just Hannah, a 32-year-old tax accountant who has seen more balance sheets than sunlight, and whose idea of rebellion is drinking her chamomile tea after 9 p.m. So yeah, get comfortable. Dim the lights. Loosen your jaw. Let your shoulders drop. Because tonight, we're drifting through the strangely royal feeling saga of a modern family who ran their household like a tiny, disastrously mismanaged kingdom, where loyalty was mandatory, gratitude was mythical, and the court treasury was basically just Hannah. Now, she didn't plan on becoming the reluctant CFO of her family dynasty. It just happened, the way feudal obligations usually do. Slowly at first, and then all at once. So let's float gently into her story. A soft descent into the background. Hannah, like many oldest daughters, was born into a job description. Not a written one, obviously, just a kind of ambient expectation that she would keep everyone else alive, solvent, fed, and preferably drama-free. And because she was good with numbers, responsible, and here's the dangerous part, emotionally available. Her role only expanded over time. For 4 years, she paid the mortgage for what was technically their family home, but was spiritually everyone's except hers. Yes, her name was on the paperwork. But no, she didn't get keys or opinions or functioning Wi-Fi access. Her parents lived there. Her younger sister, Brooke, lived there. Brooke's boyfriend/situational guest, who never paid rent, also lived there. Meanwhile, Hannah? She was living in a one-bedroom apartment across town, working 60-hour weeks and sending money like she was sponsoring an endangered species. And the family's narrative was simple, sweet, comforting, and wildly manipulative. "We're keeping the family together, sweetheart," which is nice, except they were the family and she was the together. Whenever someone's car broke down, Hannah paid. When the property tax bill came in ugly and beige, Hannah wrote the check. When her sister Brooke decided she needed a gap year to recenter her artistic vision, which, for the record, meant collecting plant houses, Hannah covered her share of the utilities. She didn't complain. She didn't announce her sacrifices. She didn't even martyr herself dramatically, which frankly would have been understandable. She just did what she always does. She handled it. Quietly. Efficiently. Almost invisibly. That's the problem with being reliable. People start thinking you're invincible. Or worse, inexhaustible. And this is the atmosphere we're drifting into. A peaceful, slightly foggy financial trap built not by villains, but by gently entitled family members who had absolutely no idea how good they had it. A small, suspicious bump in the night. One evening while reviewing her quarterly taxes, because that's the kind of woman Hannah is, she noticed something. Nothing dramatic, just a tiny, out-of-place inquiry on her credit report. It wasn't from her bank, or her credit card company, or any of the places she normally submitted her soul for inspection. This was from a lender she didn't recognize. And of course, her first thought wasn't panic or anger. It was, oh great, another thing to handle. She sighed, clicked around and checked her credit monitoring app because naturally, she had one. 2, actually. She liked redundancy. That's when she saw it. A fresh account. In her name. Approved. Processed. And substantial enough to make her eyebrows actually move. Which, for Hannah, was basically a scream. a $35,000 home equity loan. Now, normally, that would require the knowledge and consent of the homeowner, which Hannah technically was, on paper, in ink, in the most bureaucratic sense. But in terms of who actually acted like they owned the house, yeah, we all know the answer. Let's float over to the discovery. The next day, she drove to the house, not because she wanted to, just because something felt off, like a draft from a window you didn't know you had. Inside, she found what she wasn't looking for: a thick contract folder, bright, shiny, aggressively stapled. A $40,000 kitchen renovation agreement, signed, processed, filed under a magnet shaped like a chicken wearing sunglasses. And the name on the contract? Hers. Not her parents, not Brooke's, not the household collective known as "We Thought You'd Handle It." Hannah. To add insult to paperwork, the renovation was already booked. Someone had chosen Italian quartz counters. Someone had approved a farmhouse sink. Someone had made decisions with the confidence of a duchess, redecorating her summer palace. And that someone was not her. Now, here's the quiet, sleepy twist. While she stood there touching the edge of the misuse of credit folder, she heard voices drifting in from the backyard. Her family was out there, laughing, talking, planning. Not the future, though. Not a vacation, not a wedding, not anything sentimental. They were planning how to use her credit next. Her mother's voice floated in, "She makes good money. She'll be fine. We'll just figure out the payments later." Brooke added, "Once the kitchen's done, I'm sure the value of the house goes up. It's like an investment in her future, too." And her dad, who always meant well, which honestly made it worse, said, "It's family. She'll understand." And that was the moment. Not loud, not dramatic, not betrayal with the capital B, just a simple realization. They didn't see her as a person with limits or autonomy or boundaries. They saw her as a resource, a renewable one, like wind energy, but emotionally exhausted. The calm before the accountant awakening. Hannah didn't confront them right away. That would require yelling or crying or talking, all things she avoids when possible. Instead, she went home, made a spreadsheet, a really beautiful one, color-coded, categorized, deeply judgmental. She listed every mortgage payment, every property tax receipt, every emergency transfer, every "I'll pay you back later" that never returned. Nearly $350,000 across 4 years. It was almost soothing to look at, in the way that organized tragedy can be soothing. Then she placed fraud alerts on her accounts, froze her credit, consulted a lawyer, changed her phone number, an understated power move, and quietly stopped paying the mortgage. Not out of spite, just out of mathematical logic. If they treated her role like it was optional, then she decided to test that theory. And so, for the first time in 4 years, the payment didn't go through. Her mother panicked. Her father left 7 increasingly confused voice messages. Brooke texted her approximately 37 times, escalating from "Hey" to "This is literally ruining my life." All of which Hannah did not receive because her new number was living its best unbothered life. When her mother finally tracked her down at work, bursting through the front doors like an underprepared knight charging into battle, Hannah was ready, calm, tired, prepared, and holding a binder, a thick one, a soft, sleepy confrontation. Her mother began with the classic, "Why would you stop paying the mortgage? The bank called us. This is serious, Hannah." And Hannah, in the gentlest tax accountant voice imaginable, said, Because it's not my mortgage. Her mother blinked. You're on the loan. Yes, Hannah said, and you took out another one using my credit. Her mother immediately shifted into the well-worn family script. Sweetheart, we only did that because your father's hours were cut, and we thought. Hannah opened the binder, turned it around, and pointed at the highlighted forgery. This isn't Dad's handwriting. Silence. The slow, uncomfortable kind that settles in the air like dust. Her mother tried again, weaker this time. We were going to pay it back. Gently, always gently, Hannah asked, when? Another silence. This one even deeper. Her mother's face went pale in that specific tone of beige reserved for people who suddenly realize consequences are real. Then Hannah did something her family did not expect. She told her mother the truth. She had already transferred legal ownership of the house back to herself. She had evidence of fraud. She had the paper trail. She had the lawyer. And she had the emotional exhaustion of a woman who has reached her personal credit limit. Her mother sputtered something about family, about unity, about betrayal, but Hannah simply shook her head. I've been part of this family the whole time, she said softly. You just didn't notice until the money stopped. Her mother didn't scream. She didn't fight. She didn't even deny it. She just left. Quietly. Stunned. Carrying none of the certainty she had arrived with. And for the first time, Hannah felt something unusual. Not victory. Not relief. But just quiet. Actual quiet. Tonight, we're stopping right here. Right at that quiet moment where Hannah, still tired, still calm, realizes she has finally stepped out of the role her family wrote for her without her consent. In part 2, we'll drift through the legal unraveling, the emotional fallout, and the slow rebuilding of a life that was never meant to be lived in service to everyone else's comfort. Just let your mind settle, let the story breathe, and whenever you're ready, we'll continue. Hey again, wanderer. Let's settle back in. Blanket over the legs, pillow properly fluffed, breathing a little slower than usual. Because tonight, we're drifting into the aftermath. That soft, echoing space after a confrontation. When everyone pretends they're fine, but absolutely no one is fine. And in the center of it all sits Hannah. Quiet, tired, and surrounded by paperwork that could probably qualify as its own ecosystem. So let's ease into the next chapter of her unintentional journey out of generational servitude. Where we left off. We ended part 1 with Hannah standing firm, her mother retreating, and the binder of financial truth sitting open on the table like a polite but devastating witness. Now we drift onward, slowly, calmly, into the weeks that followed. Because nothing in Hannah's life collapsed in a dramatic one-night explosion. Oh no. It collapsed the way all family systems do when they rely on one person too much. Quietly, gradually, softly leaking at the seams until the entire structure deflated like an old air mattress. Let's float into week 1, the silence era. After the confrontation, something unusual happened. Something almost peaceful. Her phone didn't buzz. Her email didn't ping. Her door didn't receive any surprise knocks. It was as if she'd finally found the mute button for her entire family, a rare and beautiful thing. Her mother attempted a few half-hearted contact attempts from blocked numbers, of course, but Hannah wasn't biting. She had learned the ancient art of not responding. Her sister Brooke posted a few vague messages online, quotes like, "Some people forget who loved them first," and "Loyalty is a two-way street unless someone blocks the road." But since Brooke was always posting dramatic quotes, sometimes about cheating exes, sometimes about her inability to keep a monstera alive, no one took them too seriously. Week 1 was simply quiet. For the first time in years, Hannah wasn't financially cushioning someone else's crisis. It was almost meditative, like finding out your favorite store is closed and realizing you didn't need anything anyway. Week 2, the Mortgage Panic Festival. This is when the situation began to develop flavor. The bank called the house repeatedly. Her parents, who were used to Hannah solving every financial hiccup the moment it appeared, panicked. Mortgages, as it turns out, do not pay themselves through sheer optimism. Brooks sent panic messages through mutual acquaintances. One text read, "Mom is freaking out. Dad is sweating through his fishing shirts." Another said, "They're saying the bank is being dramatic. I think you should just talk to them so they chill." Which was honestly the problem in miniature. Her family did not want to solve the crisis. They wanted Hannah to absorb it like a stress sponge. But she remained calm, steady, unmoved. She had already consulted her lawyer. They had already begun the paperwork, and her credit was frozen tighter than a medieval king clinging to his one legitimate heir. Week 3, the Great Realization. Around this time, something shifted in the household. Not because they finally understood the consequences, but because a letter arrived. A neatly folded, brutally factual letter confirming the fraudulent loan, the forged signature, the pending transfer of ownership, and the investigation. The family's reaction was delicate. Her father sat on the porch for 2 hours in complete silence, periodically sighing like a man reenacting a Shakespearean tragedy. Her mother paced the kitchen, which, ironically, was the same kitchen she had tried to renovate with stolen credit, muttering things like, "This is ridiculous. She knows we're good people. It was only temporary. Why would she do this to us?" There is something almost tender about how people can reframe their own actions if it helps them avoid accountability. Her sister Brooke, meanwhile, crafted an entirely new narrative online. "You can give people the world and they'll still act like you took it from them." This got 7 likes and one supportive comment from a girl named Lacey, who hadn't paid rent in 4 years. A useful audience. Week 4, legal calmness, emotional chaos. This week marked the beginning of official legal proceedings. Hannah's lawyer guided her through everything. She signed affidavits, submitted evidence, confirmed identity documents, provided a full accounting of her contributions. Every signature felt like a small brick being removed from a collapsing wall she had been holding up for too long. There was something soothing about it. Not triumphant, not vengeful, just restorative. Meanwhile, her family spiraled. Her mother tried to file a counterclaim, but since the signatures on the loan documents looked suspiciously like her own handwriting, it did not go well. Her father attempted a heart-to-heart email, which included the immortal line, "We never saw it as stealing. We saw it as anticipating your support." A sentence so deeply self-revealing that even Hannah had to step away from her laptop for a moment. Her sister Brooke wrote a 2-page message accusing Hannah of betraying the family economy, which was perhaps the first time she had used the word economy in a sentence. Hannah didn't respond. Silence became her preferred financial strategy. Week 5, the unraveling. By this time, her parents finally understood the situation. They would have to leave the house. Since neither of them had the income to sustain the mortgage or the fraudulent loan, they were given two options. Option A, vacate voluntarily. Option B, pay rent to Hannah at market rate. Neither appealed to them. Shocking. Brooke was outraged on their behalf, declaring that family shouldn't charge family rent, which was a bold statement considering she had lived rent-free her entire adult life. Her mother tried a gentler tactic. "We built our lives here." To which Hannah calmly thought, "I built your lives here with recurring payments." But she didn't say that out loud. There was no point. Her lawyer handled communication. Hannah focused on working, sleeping, and drinking her tea in peace. The household, once loud, chaotic, and full of expectations, slowly began to thin out its noise. The tension was shifting from entitlement to acceptance. Week 6. The house becomes hers. At the end of the legal process, 6 weeks from the beginning, the house was officially and fully hers. Her parents signed the exit documents. Her sister packed her room in a dramatic montage involving tears, a broken hair straightener, and accusations of betrayal shouted into the void. They moved in with Brooke, a cramped little apartment with too many plant houses and not enough square footage for 3 adults mourning the loss of free housing. Hannah walked through the empty house for the first time since the transfer became final. Not as the invisible wallet, not as the emergency contact, not as the fallback option, just as a woman standing in a place she had paid for, fully, quietly, and alone. She didn't feel triumphant or smug or even vindicated, just calm, a clean, quiet calm. The house didn't feel like home. Too many memories, too many obligations. So she sold it. Cleanly, efficiently, professionally. The proceeds covered the remaining mortgage balance, the legal fees, and a very healthy down payment on a new home of her own. A small one, with sunlight and quiet, and no one leaving passive-aggressive coffee mugs in the sink. A gentle encounter with her father. One afternoon, during the moving process, Hannah crossed paths with her father. Not planned, just coincidental. The kind of soft, unintentional moment that life drops between people when the damage is done, but the affection isn't fully gone. He looked tired, older than she remembered, shoulders heavy. He told her he was sorry. Not perfectly, not completely. Not even in a way that made the situation better. Just sorry. He said, "We shouldn't have put everything on you. I knew it was wrong. I told myself you didn't mind. I think I just didn't want to see it." Hannah nodded, not forgiving, not condemning, just acknowledging. A soft, neutral place in between. They parted gently. No promises, no plans. Just a shared, quiet understanding that something real had broken. And maybe that was necessary. Brooke's attempt at a digital olive branch. Brooke, ever allergic to emotional responsibility, never apologized directly. But she did follow Hannah on social media again. A small, weirdly modern gesture that meant, "I'm not mad anymore. I want to watch your life but not talk about it. And I hope someday you forget everything I said during the meltdown." And honestly, Hannah was fine with that. Not every relationship needs closure. Some just need distance. Where we drift to a pause. This is where part 2 settles down. The legal storm passed. The house is sold. The financial drain is gone. The family is bruised, but breathing. And Hannah, quiet, steady Hannah, is beginning the slow, gentle process of rebuilding her life. Not for them, not for duty, just for herself.